everyone. Welcome to our Mother's Health podcast. We are continuing with our episode, The Superwoman Syndrome in Pregnancy. And today's topic, we're looking at between Slovak and Brazilian culture. We're looking at motherhood, mental health, and unspoken judgment, which is quite interesting. So the theme is cultural expectation, postnatal depression, gender surprise, comparison, and survival. So welcome again, everyone, to our Mother's Health podcast. I'm Dr. Vivian Chinwa, and I have with me here a very special guest, and she's going to introduce herself. But before she does, I'll just lay a bit of background into our discussion today. Motherhood doesn't happen in isolation. It happens inside the culture. It happens inside family expectations, inside ideas about what a good mother should look like. And in today's episode, we explore how motherhood is shaped by the Slovak and the Brazilian culture, where tradition, strength, silence often work hand in hand. And once again, this is our Mother's Health podcast, and today we have Klara with us to share her story. So good morning, Klara. Thank you for trusting us with this conversation. I know many people don't like to share their stories. Can you introduce yourself?
Good morning, Vivian. My name is Klara. I'm a university lecturer, but really and truly, at the bottom of my heart, I'm a mother of my son. But that didn't always come naturally to me. But to give you a picture, I am from Slovakia, currently have been living in England for 20 odd years. And my husband is from Brazil. So when you think about these two cultures, Slovakian culture and Brazilian culture are very family oriented. It's traditional family values, such as father is the head of the house, mother is the one who looks after children. And with that come expectations as how mothers should be, what they should feel. Now, as for me, I've always been a free spirit. So even though we are very compatible with my husband, he understood that I wasn't 100% sure whether I actually wanted to be mother, and he accepted that, and we got married. So that was literally, when he proposed, I said, before I answer you, I need to ask you a question. And I actually honestly asked question, do you want to have children? Because I wasn't very sure, and I was 29 at that time. And he said, it's up to you. If we do have children, we do. If not, that's fine. So we got married, life moved on. But then, as I said, the impact of my own culture and how the motherhood looks like in Slovakia until today, unlike in England, our maternity leave takes 3 years. Mother, once you have a baby, you stay home unpaid 3 years at home with the baby.
Wow.
And if you want, you can extend your time to stay home for 4 years, right? So that's way different.
And this is unpaid?
Yes, that is paid. So the first year you get 100% of your salary. Second year, I think they've changed it, but as far as I remember, it's around 80%, then you are on 60%. And then the last year, when you extend, you get some governmental minimum of some sort, so you're no longer paid.
And sorry, this is in
Slovakia, yes.
Slovakia,
and it's still case till today. So you can imagine for us, when mother has a baby, a woman has a baby, you expected to embrace that role because you're up for it for another 3 years, 24/7. And also, even our nursery system is not set. We do not accept children in nursery system up until they're 3. So you must be with that child. So when I found out my son was, I call him an oopsie prize angel. He just happened. Really great news. But because of my independence, I never felt that I was fully ready. But on the hindsight, what mother really is ready for the first baby? Even though you really want it, when it comes, it's everything but what you imagine it to be, right? So when this actually happened, so it was for personal reason from my youth, I didn't want to breastfeed. in my country, I was happy to have a baby, go with the pregnancy and everything, but I didn't want to breastfeed. I didn't feel comfortable for my breast and anything and anyone, including my child, to be around it.
Mm.
And that was the beginning of that journey. So imagine the pregnancy, 9 months. I lived with that something in me that this is not for me. I will not breastfeed.
Mm.
But from the perspective of my husband, and this is where the Brazilian culture steps in, my sister-in-law got pregnant about 6 months before me. And so basically, by the time I was starting the third trimester, she already had a baby and she
Mm.
was perfect. She was
Mm.
breastfeeding, she was all there for the baby. And I said, actually, I'm going to have a baby. And we lived close to London. So our financial situation wasn't like I could stay in sheer sense of mind at home for 3 years. So we knew with my husband, I'm going to have to go back to work very early. So the mix of the situation is I have one sister-in-law who I love and adore. She is perfect, but in that moment, that perfection put so much pressure on me. And
Exactly.
that she does everything. She breastfeeds. She wakes up at night. When I spoke with my mother-in-law, or when she showed the room was spotless, everything, and I was like, oh my God, what have I signed up for? And to add to this mix, in my head, my pregnancy was always associated with a perfect family. There is a mother, father, and a baby girl. Well, I have a son. So that was a surprise. And it took me really long time to process this. So I got to a point that the last trimester, I covered the mirrors. I could not look at me. I was really nearly self-harming. I just didn't want to be in that situation no more. But once it's on a way, you can't get out of it. And even my husband, well, at that time, he's still my husband, but during that time, he said, I'm trying to understand you. There is wanted child that's really baby that is ours. And I don't understand a mother who cannot accept. So there was suddenly that I don't understand you. And then for my mom, she offered to come and help when the little one was
Mm.
going to be born. And then my mother-in-law and then my auntie, so they took it in turns. But there was like, we'll come and help, but let's see how you get on. So I really started to sink into myself. And yes, the initial stage of my pregnancy was that it was really bad. I was really sick. And when that finally went away, I lived with this hidden expectation that, oh gosh, I'm going to have to meet the expectations of being
Of
a perfect
people.
mom,
Yeah.
doing everything, sacrificing my life. Yet I wasn't even sure whether I could actually hold that little thing in my hands. So it was really I was scared. I was stressed. I felt guilty and ashamed. And actually, even talking about it now, it's not the easiest to admit because I love my son, but there was a journey. I love him to bits. He's a perfect little thing. Well,
Yeah.
not so little anymore, but so that is the culture and where I was at that
Mm.
point.
Well, thank you, Clara, for sharing. And that's quite a touching story. I just listened through that and my head is just going all over the place. And there are a lot of women in this situation, a lot of women carrying this burden, like you have shared. And by you sharing this story, it's going to help a lot of women in your situation see how you navigated through this and you've come out this person that you are. I've worked with Clara, I would say, for a long time. And I've seen her perform. I've seen her as a very strong professional. For you to navigate all of these and still come out the way you have come out, that is commendable. But what I wanted to ask is, while we're going through this, obviously you had your child here in the UK. Did you speak to the midwives about this? Did you communicate how you were feeling? Did you get the right support from the
Sadly,
NHS system?
sorry for interruption. Sadly, I did say this to a midwife, and she had very similar reaction to my husband. Oh, don't worry, when it comes, it's gonna be fine. You're gonna see the little bundle and you'll be over the moon. She
Yeah.
absolutely dismissed my fear. And so not only I felt that there were high expectations at home, which
Yeah.
I wasn't sure
Mm,
whether I can meet. I
mm,
know that my husband was really trying to understand. He couldn't understand. And then
mm,
when I spoke to a professional, she absolutely dismissed that fear. I felt so lonely. It was such a lonely place to be.
mm.
The last 3 months of my pregnancy, I was, apart from being huge, as it oftentimes happened, that you can't see your toes and you need someone to help
Yeah,
with the
yeah. Mm,
shoes,
mm,
I felt lonely and I still needed to carry on because there was no way out of it.
mm,
So, what was really a breaking point? I had a colleague who contacted me. She was my former manager from Children's Center where I did work. And I told her because she was a social worker woman just before retiring age. No, she was sort of mid 50s
yeah.
towards hitting
Mhm.
60. So to be fair to her. So I told her this and she said, "Do you remember our colleague XYZ? She's a doula. I wonder whether you would like to talk to her. I'm sure she must have heard about cases where mums were so surprised with getting what they didn't plan for." I was like,
Mm,
oh. So I contacted that colleague. She then gave me, because we were at the time by London, she gave me contact to a doula friend who lived in that area because she was in Birmingham. And actually, I started to talk to this woman. I had calls and Zoom sessions, and that was my son was
I think I've lost you, Clara.
last month.
Yeah, I lost you for a sec there, for a
Better?
few seconds. Yeah, yeah, that's better.
Okay, so yes, I was saying that this doula person in
Mm,
where we lived, I started to talk to her sort of the last month of my pregnancy in March,
mm,
and she said she was the first person who said, "Come on, darling, it's your body, it's your choice. Whatever has happened when you were a child, when you were a teenager, that's gone. Now you are adult. You
mhm.
can make your choices. If you don't want to breastfeed, it's okay." And there
Oh,
was the
wow.
first person, it was literally a month before my son was born. And she gave me that permission to make that choice myself. And I was like, oh wow. And then she started to work with me on how do I see the labor going? Because again, when you go to hospital, they do all the checkups and is a little bit personal, but they check
Mm,
your heart and
yeah.
everything. I didn't want
You check
any
how
of
much
that.
you are dilated, how far you've gone.
Exactly. And I didn't want any of that. It was that's no touch zone, right? And she
Oh,
said,
my goodness.
you can tell them, you can speak with the hospital. And she actually rang the maternity ward on my behalf to remind them that this is a patient who will come whenever the
Mm,
baby's ready. But we have a birth plan, and this is what's going to happen. So she really supported me. So, really, last month, even though my son took a bit longer than a month to come,
mm,
when he was finally born, and on top of everything, I think because I was so scared and I was still recovering, the labor didn't progress the way I wanted it. So I ended up with emergency C-section.
mm.
So the recovery was quite slow and I was so exhausted. But when he was finally born, I remember I looked at him and there was like, "Oh, you're here now." And he looked perfect. Seriously, he looked
Oh,
perfect. He had the
wow.
cute little nose, little fingers.
Yeah.
I don't remember it, but I remember it from seeing a video. I counted that he had all fingers, no toes, he had
Nothing was
nose, he had
missing.
ears, he had everything. And I was mesmerized by him. And he was
Mm,
so perfect. But then I started to feel that weight of, wow, now I'm the mother. I have
mm,
to look after this little thing.
yeah.
But I still didn't want to breastfeed. And when I was in hospital, I don't think they actually acknowledged what I said because when he started to cry that he was hungry, they wanted
Mm,
me to put him on the breast and start to
mm,
breastfeed. And I was like, no. And they wouldn't give me, they have those either formula milk or
mhm.
mother
Yes.
milk from other mums in
Mm.
little bottles. They didn't want to give me any of those. And my little thing was
You're
crying.
kidding me. They wouldn't give you those.
They didn't want to give me. The midwife was saying, you have to put him on your breast. And I was like, no.
Oh, wow. Clara, I must say, that's the definition of strength right there. Understanding what you want, understanding your birth plan, putting that together, and being able to voice that out. Because that's not an easy situation. I know how it can be when you are with the midwives and they have certain expectation of you.
Yeah.
And they just and try to enforce what they feel is perfect, what they want you to do, without looking at you and understanding your own plan and your care plan, what you wanted to do.
Exactly.
So how did that progress? So,
Well, it progressed in a way that I rang my husband and I said, the baby's hungry. Can you bring me formula milk? And he didn't understand either. My mom
wow.
was here by that time. No one understood. Obviously, eventually when that little thing was crying for so long that it was disturbing the whole room because they were 6 months with the babies, they finally brought that milk and I gave him milk. But he was like, why? You are a milk factory. You can give that milk. I said, no, I can't give the milk.
Oh, wow.
So that was the beginning of that whole journey after he was
Mm,
born. So it's the journey towards him being born. This is
mm,
a cute little thing. I want to embrace it to be mother of a boy little thing, right? But then I have, no, you have to do this. No, you have to do that. And everyone tries to look empathic, supportive, but actually they'll even ask what I want, where I was. So
yeah,
we went home. We started to look after my mom, tried to help as much as she could, but it was always like, oh, you should be doing this, you should be doing that. My mother-in-law was more diplomatic, amazing woman, really helpful, gave me lots of advice, aka when the baby sleep, don't care about the house. He's too young,
yeah,
sleep with the baby because you will be tired. And that's what I
yeah.
did precisely. But there was always something like, you should be doing that. Are you sure you don't want to? When I used the extraction pump, and because I did have some milk, obviously, so I would use a
It's
breast
just
pump
right.
and give him milk as much as I could.
It's price. Okay.
Looks, you could see the, oh,
The
even
judgment.
just the judgment, but it wasn't spoken. It was very
So,
subtle.
yeah.
Yes. And silent. And then my mother-in-law went home. And then when my son was 3 months old, I went to work and my auntie came to help. And that was another nail in my coffin, I'd say.
Klara, somebody, like you said from the beginning, there are certain expectations culturally and as mothers. People just expect that you should just start breastfeeding straight away. You should just have those instincts, just care for your baby, just get on with it. And can you imagine all of those people that have come to you just looking at you and saying, she's got milk. Why can't she just put that in the baby's mouth? It's just a straightforward thing.
Oh,
Just the baby and put on there. And that's where the judgment comes because people can just sit down and think, this is not serious. There's milk, we can physically see the milk. So what
yeah.
is stopping her from putting that milk right on there to suck? So I'm sure you'd have been also, because as women, we've been brought up certain ways that this is how we should do things. So for
Yeah.
them too, it might be a shock to them that why is she not doing this? But the way that you have navigated this, let me let you continue with that story where the nail in on the coffin.
So I had to go to work because financially we were not in a position that I could stay home for a year. So 3 months I stayed home. I went to work and you could see my auntie. She never had children, but she was perfect with my little one. She did everything. I wrote her literally on the list because she had no experience. She's one of those women who dedicated her life to career, but now
Mm,
she can volunteer to come and help me. So she did everything what I wanted her to do because she had no preconcepts, how things need to be done. But then there was always like, oh, you're going to work. And then she went and she cleaned my house, she sorted everything, but it was showing me how to fold things, how to do things. With the best intention, baby's sleeping. And in my brain, I was like, finally he's sleeping. That means for 3 hours I can sleep as well, right?
mm,
Let's come. We're going to fold the clothes. We're going to tidy up. We're going to do this. I know she did it with the best intention to help me to maintain the house and you need to look after your hair, you have a husband, you have this. And I was like, oh gosh, I can barely walk because I remember I had a C-section. It takes time to
it's time
heal.
to heal.
It's
Yeah,
longer than when you
yeah,
deliver
yeah,
baby. It's
yeah,
not
yeah.
6 weeks. So at the time, it was sort of 4 or 5 months postpartum. And there were moments. So this is one part of the story where she was really in the best possible and loving way, trying to show me how to do things right as per expectations, right?
Mm,
But I had no capacity. And plus, I really still struggled with bonding. I really struggled with bonding. There were times when, the baby's born, they sleep, they eat, they have lots of demands. With the first child, you are in a whole different zone. Your body, your brain, everything needs to shift and everything needs to change and you need to prioritize it. But there were times when he cried and I couldn't even, I blanked him. I gave him to my husband and I said, it's your child. I could not even hear or see him. I was so exhausted, even so like could not pronounce his name. And that
Wow.
was, yeah, it was. And then I went to a GP because once he was really ill. So I went to a GP and I melted. I said he is because he was constipated, and babies do get constipated. They
Mm-hmm.
would cry. He literally cried for 3 straight days, day and night. So I went to doctor and I said what's been happening, and then I melted and I said it's really bad. I can't see. They're like this is something what came out of me, but it's so cute. So I can't even pronounce the name. And then we spoke together and he said, suspect you maybe like postnatal depression
Depression.
and there is a problem with the bonding. What that doctor did was the best thing that could have happened to me. I had a woman from a health visiting team and she would start to come to my house once a week. And what we did, she showed me how to massage him, even though I did train baby massage, but in that state of mind, I never clicked I could do it for my own child.
Mm-hmm.
So we started to do baby massage, his feet and stuff. And then she said, what if you sing his name? I was like, and she said, you sing. It's a different brain center. And I started to sing his name.
Oh, wow.
And I started to, and it took me sort of, he was around 6, 7 months. We moved back to Birmingham because the cost of living were better.
Mm.
Then my mum, auntie, everyone went home. And I started to sing him because that was the only way how I could start to bond with him. And then I said, okay, we're in a new place. Obviously, I went to work. But as I was in work, because of that every evening singing, I started to miss him. And that was when he was around 7, 8 months, like that feeling of, I need my baby. So by the time he reached 7 months of age, we spoke with my husband. He said, okay, back on maternity. And I stayed home with him for a while. And I really enjoyed him. So I always say, even though I have one child, I had two pregnancies. One was the physical pregnancy. Second one was the pregnancy where I actually learned to love him, learned to navigate those expectations and those judgments, and actually learn to be actually. It's my child. I'm going to decide. If it's cold, I'm going to put whatever I want on the child.
Mm-hmm.
Being give children tights with little
Yeah,
trunks.
yeah, yeah.
So you don't need to put many layers, but you put this, put joggers, and even when it's cold, they have it on. And when
Mm.
they came, when he started later, when he started nursery, the nursery teachers were like, "Why are you giving it to him?" And I said, "Because you can take everything off. He can be in his body. He can have this, and he will be not cold on his feet." Because that's
Mm.
our thing in Slovakia. Children, when they get cold on their feet, they really catch colds, and sometimes in
Mm.
some places, a bit more north, children could even die. So we really keep their feet warm.
Well, yeah.
I made my decisions, but it was 9 months where I could feel, I think my husband had to accept the point that house will not be sparkling.
Mm.
The way how he met me in the middle, we started, he said, okay, if we juggle the money, because I was at home with him, remember, once a week, we're gonna have a cleaner. On Fridays, I had a cleaner for 3 or 4 hours. She would come and tidy up the house. So that's how the need for clean house was met for my husband. My family was no longer there. They wanted to come. I said, no, I'll be with my child. And I
Mm.
started to embrace the fact that actually my house will be fully sparkling when the cleaner comes. Other than that, I do what I can, but if I can't, oh
Yeah,
well.
yeah,
Sometimes we're gonna have toast with butter and scrambled eggs for breakfast for dinner if I have no time because he
yeah.
keeps me busy. And I started those 9 months were really the time when I started went through all this. And I'm not saying that my postnatal depression was over. It's just I came to accept it. And I came to accept my child and I've started to embrace everything despite those subtle hinges, even though my
Mm.
family kept reminding me, I don't understand. How come you're in work? Your baby is really small. Well,
Mm.
I had to be in work, even though then I stayed. But I then, I'm a type of person, I still went, and 6 months being just at home with him, he was around 14 months. I picked up, didn't return to work back to nursery as a nursery manager at that time, but I returned to work in complex care, sometimes two night shifts a week. So daytime I would be with the little one and maybe one shift. So I had some extra money for me and him to go and do activities, but then still was at home, but it was really tough to blanket that, sorry, your expectations and I am.
Amazing. I'm just in awe. You said, I'm just in awe. I'm just to process everything, how you were able to navigate these. And a lot of women are listening to this podcast. And I think there are some things we need to learn from what you have navigated through this stage, because postnatal depression, I believe that is a phase for a lot of women, and they do come out on the other side. But some women can end their lives. It could
Yes,
also end the life of the child as well. So the way you have navigated this phase in your life and have come out on the other side, it's something that people can learn from. I like that you're able to voice out how you felt and not keep everything silent, and with your husband or your partner, you're feeling and how you can collaborate to ensure that your mental health was taken care of. Like house chores, that can be a burden for a lot of women at this phase, trying to put everything together, especially women that have other children, they have to do school runs. Oh my goodness. And they have to do all these things together. And they are expected to show the superwoman syndrome, to be strong and active. But the way you have navigated, you've communicated what you wanted very well. You've shared with your midwife. I just like the singing therapy that helped you to get back. So these are the things that women can do. Never
but
isolate
I was
yourself.
lucky. I
Yeah.
met many moms during that period
Yeah.
didn't have support in their partner. My husband, unfortunately, I was lucky that he said, well, I don't understand what you're going through. I have to admit that, but tell me what you need and I'll try to do that. Right? Imagine there are lots of moms who are single mothers or who, as you said, have more than one children and they have to be a super machine. I cannot imagine that I would have had another one or two children at home and going through all this, plus feeling like this is mine, but I don't know whether I can do it. Plus my body image when I was a teenager, you don't think I've mentioned this. I suffered from bulimia and anorexia. So it took me years to get out of that vicious cycle. And suddenly imagine my belly was saggy. I couldn't look at me and I couldn't do
That's a
anything
whole
about
lot of
it.
discussion around
That's
body
a whole
image.
different story, and I don't want to
It's
even
a
venture
big,
there.
yeah.
It's a non-stop, and that birth of my child re-triggered those feelings. Put on nearly 5 stones during pregnancy because of all what I went through. Now, when he was born, the day he was born, those 5 stones didn't disappear. I think that was part of why the postnatal depression and everything kicked in, apart from
Yeah.
feeling that quiet judgment and just nobody understands. And this is the worst thing. Nobody understands. And nobody actually, and even it's a term, gender disappointment, I call it gender surprise now. I like that term better,
Yeah.
right? Because he was surprised and he's the most amazing thing. But this attracts so much societal, cultural, community judgment, and even your best friends, they just don't understand. And phrase I heard the most is, oh gosh, there are so many couples who can't even conceive a child. You have one healthy baby and you can't do it. People would be grateful if they could have at least one.
Yeah.
It was not very nice. But I had
Yeah.
to that was, find the fact that I verbalized what I felt and that when I was on the lowest point, just whether it was the doula or this health visitor who went through the massage and singing with me, and then even actually at the end, my husband who said, actually, we can have a cleaner and you pace yourself. When I was the lowest, someone turned up to help me. It wasn't necessarily my family, even though at the end it was my husband in the last point. So there is it like cannot look into my sister, my uncle, my mother-in-law, my mother. Someone will understand sometimes.
They don't understand sometimes. They don't.
No,
They
because
can
they
never.
will see, okay, you should be loving that little thing. You should
Mm.
be doing this. And come on, so many women before you, they did it. So how come you can't? Well, some women find it overwhelming. It was
Yeah,
overwhelming for
yeah,
me.
yeah. Women find it really difficult, but also we must applaud men that support your husband that actually maybe later on acknowledged that you needed support and provided that support. Can you imagine so many women out there in developing countries, okay? Are blessed here because when we have these sort of things and we're able to speak out, somehow there's a support system from the NHS. If you say you have this, they give you some level of support. It might not be perfect, but they are there to listen. But there are many women out there, they have no resources. Um, they are from these difficult cultures, especially some African cultures,
Right.
where you are not allowed to say you cannot do it. Like what you are saying now, some people would dare not say it in my culture that I can't breastfeed, take the baby away. Oh, I can't do it. It's not going to
Well, the looks
happen.
I had, the looks I received, and that's in England. I cannot even
Yeah.
imagine what it must
So
feel like when
imagine,
you are in that
yeah,
country, whether you like it or not. You pop the baby out, excuse my vocabulary, you pop the baby out, here you go, put it on, and off we go. Life goes on. Women goes to field and work the next day.
you know
It
what?
must be
Yeah.
very tough.
Yeah, tough for a lot of women. But like I said before, redefining strength and what strength should look like for pregnant women and families. And for people watching, this is Klara's story, and she come out on the other side stronger. So women have children. We have to be very careful to understand the state of their mind, their preferences. And even though we want them to do certain things, I think it comes from support, a lot of support, talking it through, how there can be collaboration and how we can, some people don't have this, but I think that's where we should be going. That's strength right there, when you can speak up and get the support that you need and work with somebody. And like Klara said, it's not even your family members a lot of times. It's people that are knowledgeable, professionals, some people out
Yeah.
there could give you that support that you need. So staying silent and within the confines of your house and thinking you will get better or this will go away, it might not go away. Silence could cost you a lot. And you need that support for your mental health to begin to improve and begin to flourish. And this is a very interesting story. Before we go, Klara, I'd like you to women that are listening right now, from your culture, women in Europe. Give them that last word. What really want them to know finally, because you've said a lot today. You've talked about how you navigated your pregnancy, the childbirth, okay, how you got back to work, how you navigated guilt and postnatal depression. You've talked about all of these things, and it's so impressive. So, what are your final words to all of the women that are watching right now? What do you like them to know?
Yeah. Number one, will not go away on its own. It's not like a flu that your body can deal with, and eventually it will not go away. So if you need to speak up, sometimes to speak up means to, as I did once, leave your child at home with a family member, you go for a walk, go and talk to a specialist if you can. If you live very remote, try to find way how to talk to someone professional. Professional oftentimes, not 100% can direct you to
Hmm.
a person or talk to someone who looks more empathic. That was my judgment at that time. But
Hmm.
do not hold it in. It will
Hmm.
not go away.
Yes, thank you so much. And hope you all follow this podcast and keep listening. A lot of people be coming on here, share story and to redefine what strength means us as women. And your story, Klara, reminds us that motherhood is shaped by culture and can be loving and unforgiving. that expectation can harm even when they are well intended. So all of the people can have good intentions, and that healing doesn't follow a script. Okay. You are not failing because motherhood looks different for you. You are surviving, and that's what matters. Our mental health matters, motherhood matters, and what matters that you come out on the other side healthy, strong, and alive. So this is our Mother's Health podcast, and this is how you can navigate cultural expectation, getting back to work, childbirth, and navigate a society and people that can sometimes be hostile towards you, your perception or your state of health. Or in all, we are looking to have safe motherhood, and that's what matters. So thank you everyone for watching, and thank you so much for sharing this amazing story. We know that a lot of people are going to learn from this. And bye-bye, everyone. Thank you. Bye-bye.